Thanks for your company this morning. Now, it is a disturbing sign of the times. Police in Melbourne ordered to patrol playgrounds to ensure children and their parents don't break COVID restrictions. The Police Association is furious, and this is the Herald Sun headline today: "Don't make us your playground bullies." It does come as concern grows over the worrying number of children now spreading the virus. Let's discuss with Queensland Senator Matt Canavan, who's stuck in Canberra, and Editor-in-Chief of Stella and Body and Soul magazine, Sarah Lamarquand in Sydney. Nice to see both of you this morning. You're pretty dolled up there this morning, Sarah. I get it's pretty cold.
Can you tell?
Matt, patrolling
Not
playgrounds.
as cold as Canberra.
Well, you're inside, she's outside. But let's talk about this, patrolling playgrounds. Do you think it's over the top, Matt?
I do, Sarah. I mean, one of the most important things in combating the coronavirus is to get exercise, is to stay healthy, and I don't understand why they then lock us all up in our homes. And the damage we're doing to children from deny them even playing here. We are losing all perspective and balance on this issue. And what is the long-term plan? Because, in my experience, it's not 13 and 14-year-old. My 13 and 14-year-old sons don't go to the playground. It's my 4 and 6-year-old kids. And at this stage, there's no chance of them getting a vaccine anytime soon. They're not even approved yet. So what's going to happen? Do they have to not use the playground for years until that happens? This is outrageous, especially in an inner city place like Melbourne, where a lot of people don't have backyards or other opportunities for kids to play.
Yeah, and you feel for those kids who, as you say, don't have the luxury of running around in the backyard and just getting out that light that it gives them for, an hour or so each day going to the playground. But Sarah...
Yeah, the vitamin D.
The counter-argument to that, though, Sarah, you've got 50 kids now under the age of 10 in Melbourne who have COVID. So are these tough rules warranted for a short period of time?
I fear they might be. I hear everything Matt is saying. Believe me, I do. I've got 2 young children and we do not have a big backyard, and we all know that children getting outside in the fresh air, getting some exercise is imperative for mental and physical health. I also do think that the Victorian government has a little bit of a reputation for being a knee-jerk response, and I think that the fact that they did cry wolf a little bit last year, and I know a lot of people will be angry that I say that, but I do think that's true, before we got the Delta variant, has probably got that sort of ill will. So I can see why people are accusing them of being playground bullies. That said, there is some evidence from experts that actually these small violations that people think isn't really a big deal, that could be what's holding us back. No one finds these new lockdowns more frustrating than the overwhelming majority of people that are doing the right thing. We've got people making really profound sacrifices, not being able to farewell their loved ones at funerals, being separated from families, losing jobs, businesses closing, people trying to navigate working from home with full-time jobs. All these hardships can't be in vain. So if these crackdowns help, I'm all for it.
Right. Well, look, I also want to talk about this worrying situation in Dubbo in central New South Wales and the very high rate of COVID within the Indigenous community now, again, particularly with children. Matt, I think it's something like 4% of the Indigenous population in this country is fully vaccinated. So that is on your government. It is one of the most vulnerable communities. How have you let this happen?
Well, Sarah, obviously... Sorry, Ali. It's a very difficult thing to get the vaccines out to a lot of the Indigenous communities.
Why is it so hard? Can you explain that to me? Why is it so hard not to put vaccines in a truck, send a couple of nurses out and just get it done?
My understanding here, Ali, this is not just a supply issue. Obviously, supply has been an issue for many parts of Australia, but there have been significant supplies go to areas like the Northern Territory. But there is an understandable resistance in Indigenous communities to taking things like this, where there may not be the understanding of what it is. So more does need to be done to try and educate and encourage people to get that take up. I also think, look, we've seen this right around the world. We're seeing it in New Zealand right now, where, look, it's just human nature that people don't go and get the vaccine until there's an outbreak. And I know that's the wrong way around, but we've seen uptick in take-up of the vaccines in Sydney and Melbourne since there's been an outbreak. And likewise, Indigenous communities haven't had an outbreak. They haven't been near any outbreaks. And I think now that is happening, you'll see that increase in uptake. just as you do right around the world.
Yeah, I just don't understand why we didn't have an awareness campaign, why you didn't target those communities with education, get elders spreading the message, getting them on board. I just feel there was a lot more that could have been done there. Let's hope it's not too late. And let's also, again, more upbeat, let's talk about the desperate situation in Kabul and the Prime Minister yesterday warning we may not be able to rescue all of the trapped Australians and the Afghans who helped them. Matt, people are going to be left behind. Why didn't we have a plan for the worst case scenario?
This has been a massive failure, Ali. It's a massive failure of Western intelligence. We must be upfront with that. In hindsight, of course, more should have been done last week, but it seems to be that the intelligence we were getting, at least from officials publicly, was that Kabul would hold, that it would be 3 months before the Taliban would take over at least. Obviously that was hopelessly wrong, and serious questions have to be asked about how we got this so wrong. I'm concerned, Sarah, this is a massive defeat for the woke armies of the West. We've gone all woke in our military. They're focused on all these distractions like rainbow morning teas. And have they taken their eyes off the ball? We've got to get back to what the military are there for, not patrolling the streets of Sydney. Why are they patrolling the streets of Sydney when the military should be focused on exercises like this?
Look, I agree, and I think it's just a desperate situation there. And look, Matt, you've copped a hard time for a tweet you sent out earlier in the week asking whether the Taliban will sign up to net zero. It provoked quite a response, even from within your own party. Barnaby Joyce didn't like it. Michael McCormack called it disappointing, insensitive, unnecessary. I mean, it definitely was tone deaf, considering, you know, that all the desperate scenes that we saw at the airport there in Kabul. Do you regret it now, and would you like to apologise?
No, I don't, and I won't. Yes, it was it was meant to shock, Ali, and some people found it shocking. But it is shocking, and we need to ask these serious questions. And my comment was just the logical conclusion of what a lot of our senior military officials have been saying. 3 months ago, 30 senior defence officials, current and former defence officials, signed up to a letter saying that climate change was our biggest national security risk. Right? The biggest national security risk. Now, all my question does is take their points of view seriously into its logical extreme. Now, their position is obviously absurd, as was my comment, right? It was meant to show the farce of this situation. So why were our senior, current and former defence officials focused on climate change and not on the situation in Kabul? Why are they focused on doing rainbow morning teas and not on securing the exit paths for people that have helped us out of Afghanistan? This has been a massive failure, and serious questions have to be asked. All right, so you heard that, Sarah. Matt's doubled down on that. What do you make of his explanation? Does that make sense to you?
Oh, look, Matt, I think you're being a bit disingenuous. I mean, really wasn't that tweet about your obsession with climate change and government policies to target it rather than other people being obsessed with it? Look, you will be relieved to hear that I am not, it's my personal belief system not to join Twitter pylons, and I know that a lot of this pylon did originate in Twitter, which tends to be the home of the intellectually lazy and people with too much time on their hands. But I do think that it was tone deaf, Matt. It's obviously a really difficult time for people who've returned from Afghanistan, from the families here, veterans who lost their lives in the mission there. And of course, like so many people, I think the real focus here is on people in Afghanistan at the moment, and particularly for the women over there, and obviously the horrifying prospect of the return of a really oppressive regime.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really interesting, wasn't it, the media conference that the Taliban held this morning, saying women will be fine, you can have an education, there'll be no retaliation. I'm not sure anyone at this point really believes that. But thank you so much, both of you, for joining us this morning. And just on a lighter note, Sarah, Karl reckons you look like a beautiful ostrich in your coat there this morning.
Thank you, Carlos. It is the return of Aussie ostrich.
It's never looked so
good.
good.
Today Show exclusive.
Lovely to talk to you both. Thank you.